Hi there, it's Ashley and I run an eco-friendly blog called mygreennest.com where I vlog about all things natural parenting. So if you guys are curious about cloth diapering, breastfeeding, any of those things, you can check it out. Well, the last couple of years I have been busy learning how to homeschool, and I had a very successful year homeschooling my second grader. So I wanted to share with you guys all the things that worked for us, all the books that we used, all the little things that we did that made this year a success, and even some of the things that I didn't like so much. So I hope you guys are encouraged to homeschool and you're not afraid. Watch this video. I think it'll be very encouraging to you. And after I make this video, I'm actually going to make what we plan on homeschooling with, like all the books and stuff that we're going to use for third grade. So if I don't have that video linked when you see this video, I will link it in the description below for you guys to check out shortly. So anyway, without further ado, let's get started. I really like this workbook because it has a lot to offer, a lot of different subjects: grammar, science, maps, math, reading, writing, everything. I mean, it has quite a bit to offer, and the great thing about workbooks is they're affordable. This one was under $5, and it gives you an idea of where your second grader or third grader, whatever grade you're teaching, it kind of gives you an idea of what they need to learn. You know, if you're brand new to homeschooling, get you a workbook that just kind of has everything, and that will get you started. Then you can supplement in all the other areas. You can use YouTube videos, we use library books. Basically, you don't have to spend a lot of money to purchase a workbook and go to your library. I really liked the map section in this book. It went over maps very thoroughly, and I also like the grammar section. We're not actually quite done with grammar. We're going to finish that up this summer. And we didn't do all of the science investigations. We mainly just did the reading comprehension stuff more, which I actually liked the reading comprehension as well. The only thing that wasn't as strong with this book was their math. They did have two different types of sections on math. My son just needs to be a little more challenged in math. He's naturally good at it. The only part that I think was a little bit challenging for him was the subtraction and addition when he had to carry the numbers over. Otherwise, I felt like he needed to be a little bit more challenged, so keep that in mind if you pick up this workbook. Now for our science, we finished up ocean anatomy, which we went through the entire summer, and then once we finished up that book, we started studying human anatomy. And how we do our homeschooling is we do 1 week science, and then the next week we do government or history, and we just switch back and forth. My mother actually found this book at a thrift store, and it's interactive, and the kids really like that. They like to pull the tabs and read the little facts, and this book was short and sweet and engaging. I had actually used a couple other anatomy books that were very more college or high school level, and it just wasn't engaging like this one was. And anytime I wanted to go into the topic a little bit more or show them visually, we would just hop on over to YouTube and find a kid-friendly science video. We're still only about halfway through the book, so we'll continue this on through the summer. Now, one of the things that we started doing this semester was get our kids special sketchbooks that was just for them and just for homeschooling, and every week that we went over something in science, they had to draw something from their lesson and they had to label it. So sometimes that would be the heart, sometimes that would be bones, or anything like that, and I thought my son did really well. He is a little bit artistic, but your kid doesn't have to be artistic to do this, and it's just a great way for them to remember what they learned and get familiar with all the vocabulary. And to go on with learning anatomy, of course we had to buy a little skeleton kit that my second grader and his dad put together. And then I found this woolly mammoth while on vacation at Branson, and luckily my mom, she went in half with me. Like, who doesn't want to put together a woolly mammoth in science class? So my older son did that, and my younger son did the skeleton. And what was really cool about the little skeleton kit is it came with this awesome little book that after we get done with the anatomy book, I think I'm going to go through and read this one next. And last but not least, sometimes on a Friday afternoon, I'll pull out this book that I got a couple years ago. It is a fantastic, little, quick, easy read. You just read 1 page or 2, and it has a little activity that the kids can do outside. Little easy stuff, but stuff that you can actually learn, like this sundial clock. I'm wanting to do that pretty soon. Or catching minnows. Just all kinds of little things to get the kids outside and my older son has really enjoyed this. I actually need to use this more. And speaking of the outdoors, we also have a little outdoor humble garden where we grow cucumbers, tomatoes, lemongrass, and a bunch of random things. My second grader is currently growing his own strawberries. Letting your child pick out some seeds and grow it on the windowsill or outside is a great learning experience for your child, and it doesn't cost a lot of money. So for part of our language arts, I do a read aloud through the school week, and I do 1 to 2 chapters a day. And I try to mix up the genres, so we'll do like a fantasy. We always try to hit the classics, sometimes a modern book, sometimes a fantasy book, or a thriller or something like that. If I do something that's really heavy, we'll kind of slow down and do like a Goosebumps or something like that. These are the books that I read over this year, and it's really fun if there's a movie that we can watch after, and then my kids can compare if they like the book or the movie better. Now, the one thing we will rarely take a break from is our read-alouds. I'm pretty consistent on reading year-round, even on most breaks. Now, ever so often I won't read, but it's kind of rare. And the book that I couldn't wait to read was The Pilgrim's Progress. And sorry, I couldn't get it all in frame here, but this is a special edition that's illustrated and made for children. And this is the one we're going to work through for the summer. It's a little bit bigger, so it might take me a month or two to get through it. There are a lot of studies that talk about reading to children and how it increases their vocabulary and really helps to make them smarter. So this is just something that's kind of a non-negotiable for us. And I usually will average 1 book a month. And it doesn't matter how old the kids are, it's always a bonus if there's pictures. Along with reading out loud, we have what we call read-alongs. And it's basically just read a book by yourself and then come tell me about it. And each month they have to read like 3 or 4 books. Now usually when I'm getting my kids started on reading alone, I start them off on something easy like a graphic novel like Dog Man or something like that. But my son was flying through them. My second grader, he was basically ready to read chapter books. He took right to it. So the key to getting them to read is to find something they're interested in, and also mix in history and things like that that's educational. Like these Tuttle Twin books, they're fantastic for teaching law and government in a fun way. So some of the things they have to read for education, and some of it's fun like Pokemon. The I Survive series is a great series as well that I want to get him on. But these are some of the books that he read all through second grade. I'm really proud of where he went with his reading. And before I forget, we do have a reward system. When they read a book, they get a sticker, and when they get so many stickers, they get to pick out a prize. So that definitely helps keeping them motivated. Now this was a book that I received from a friend who was no longer homeschooling. So I decided to use it instead of library books, and we went through this book over the year, and my son would read like a story a week. And reading out loud to me, I'm able to catch fluency issues, pronunciation issues, and help him to get out of reading monotone. And I really like this book because it went over a lot of stories about different cultures around the world. You can use whatever reading materials that are lying around your house or a library or whatever. It doesn't have to be any fancy reading curriculum. Most mornings, my second grader would start off doing his little devotional that we got free from VBS and reading a scripture from the Bible, or reading maybe a chapter depending on what we were doing that day. And that would also help his reading fluency. Now once a month we do a thing called Missions Day where we study about a missionary or a hymn, and I have them write in their prayer journal. We will write some prayer requests, and then we will also write what we're thankful for, and I usually will have them write a letter to their friends or family member, which is a great way to practice their writing skills. Now on Missions Day, I don't read out of our normal read aloud chapter books. I actually read from a magazine that I get for free called The Voice of the Martyrs. And you can get a free subscription to if you go to their website. And it talks about the persecution that Christians are facing globally and around the world, and how we can help and pray for them. Another unconventional way I help their writing is when my kids get in trouble. Sometimes I'll have them write sentences like, "I will clean up my room." And with my second grader, I will change some of the words into cursive words so he gets a little cursive practice in. But we actually do work out of a cursive book, and we did this probably every Wednesday, or Thursday, he would do 2 pages of cursive practice. Now, you don't have to have a fancy cursive book. I just happened to have one that was donated to me, so we just use what we have on hand. But I have in the past shown my 5th grader, when we were teaching him cursive, he would just copy it in a notebook. For the most part, I liked this cursive book. It was separated into 3 parts. We're on part 2 right now, where we're just practicing the words. And then part 3 we'll probably work through by 3rd grade, and it's where you write sentences. And eventually, once he's able to do that, he will be writing his letters in full cursive. Because my son was already writing really well and he was already ready to do cursive a little bit earlier, we skipped the regular print writing in my workbook. You don't have to teach cursive in 2nd, you can start them at 3rd. That's how I did it with my oldest, but my 2nd grader was just ready. The only downside to this book was I wasn't a fan of some of the ways they did their letters. I did mine a little bit differently growing up, and so I just taught my son to do it the way I liked it. So just be mindful of that if you get this specific book, but otherwise it was a great book. On Missions Day, when my kids write their letters, they always try to include an encouraging scripture at the bottom, and this has been a great little reference guide for just uplifting, encouraging scriptures, and you can also use it for memory practice. We have done that as well. And I got this for free. A lady at the church gave it to me, so overall, a really wonderful resource that I'm glad that we have. I'm very passionate about language learning, and I want all of my kids to at least be familiar with Spanish or any other language, but Spanish is the one that we practice. So I wanted an easy little workbook that my 2nd grader could work on. I think I'm going to set him on Rosetta Stone maybe next year, because my oldest is doing Rosetta Stone, and I feel like it's the best thing we've done for his language learning. We've tried multiple workbooks. I honestly don't recommend this one as the vocab goes too fast and there's not enough repetition, but I don't regret it because my 2nd grader is at least learning how to recognize Spanish words, how to write the accent marks, so it's not a total loss. It's just not the best Spanish book that we've ever used. Now, on the weeks that we do social studies or history, once in a while, probably about once or twice a month, we'll pull out this book and he'll pick a page to do. He'll fill it out for 2 states, and then he'll pick 1 state to actually learn about. We only have 2 more pages until this book is completed, so we're about to finish it completely off. And I've just been taking my time on it. And then I have this other book about all 50 states. I got it from Ollie's at a really good price, probably around $5. And so whatever state he wants to learn about, we'll sit around and read over the state and all of that state's unique features. Now, originally for our history or social studies curriculum, I had this book that was given to me, but when my 2nd grader started, we were just about to finish the book. I think we were going over ancient Greece, ancient Rome, ancient China, and things like that. It was a really good book, but once we finished it, I actually did invest some money into the Tuttle Twins history books, and so that's what we started about halfway through the year. That's what we started with. Now, I got Volume 1 and Volume 2 of American History, and we are a few chapters in to Volume 1, so we'll be going through it over the summer and the fall. And this is more of like a storytelling type of book. It goes over Ethan and Emily and how they're learning about history, and more about what are the principles you're learning from history. So it's not your typical history book. It's written really in more of an engaging way for kids, and it really complements the Tuttle Twin books. Funny enough, I got this giant Native American postcard from a gas station, and I have used it for homeschooling. This is where the tribes originally were, like a long time ago before we basically colonized America. So anytime we're going over Native Americans and we want to know where their tribe came from, I will pull this sucker out, and it's been a really useful tool. And to my honorable mentions, sometimes I'll pull this book out and we'll go over words, analogies. It's just to kind of stretch their brain, figure out puzzles, things like that. I do need to use it a little bit more. And we were teaching out of this piano book here, and I've kind of dropped the ball on it. We were using a little metronome and he was playing the little tunes. I think my 2nd grader is pretty musical. I actually need to get back into this. But these are great books. These little Alfred books are my favorite for learning and teaching piano. Now my son also was using Duolingo, the music feature. They have like a music class on there, but like I said, we did drop the ball on it. We need to get back to it. And for art, we always have art supplies sitting around year-round. We have sketchbooks, crayons, paint, everything. So they're always doing that. However, I'm going to be picking up more of the art curriculum this summer. That way we can get ready for the fair. But overall, second grade was a very, very much success. You know, I hope I inspired you. I hope I didn't overwhelm you with all the things that I showed. A lot of these things, like I said, I either found in thrift stores, were donated to me, or, you know, just stuff that we already had lying around the house. So you don't need to spend a lot of money. And the only thing we chalked up money for was the Tuttle Twin series. That was the only thing I really kind of spent a little bit of money for, at least for second grade. But I can use that for all three of my kids. I hope I inspired you guys to homeschool. I hope this didn't overwhelm you. You don't have to do everything that I did. This is just what we did and what worked for us. Every household is different. I will be making a part 2 on what we plan on homeschooling with for third grade. So I hope you guys stay tuned for that. Have a blessed week.